Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars, welcome to another PlayStation review. Today's review is for Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 on the PlayStation 5, although it is also available to play on the PlayStation 4. Now Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 focuses on the early career of the great detective Sherlock Holmes. And as the clues in the title, you basically play a younger version of Sherlock Holmes who returns to his childhood island where he grew up to put to rest some old family ghosts, and while there gets involved in lots of different cases, solves lots of different crimes, etc., etc. It's Sherlock Holmes. It's just what he does. Now, I have played and enjoyed all of the Sherlock Holmes games that we've had available, certainly on the PlayStation, over the last few years. I've played Crimes and Punishments, really enjoyed that. The Devil's Daughter, I played that and enjoyed that. And I'm, generally speaking, a fan of detective games in general. I like the Poirot games, generally speaking. I like LA Noire. So detective games are my sort of games, really. I can find them quite relaxing, and also they get your brain working as well. So I've been really quite looking forward to this one for several months. I think Frogwares, generally speaking, deliver good quality games, and I generally always enjoy playing their games for the most part. Now, for those of you who have played any of the Sherlock Holmes, previous Sherlock Holmes, especially from this developer, there is a lot of this game that will immediately feel familiar. You solve crimes in many ways that you have done in previous games. They just kind of tweaked some of the approaches to it, really. You can observe suspects. You could, observe things about them. You can question people. You've got a mind palace where you can go and connect clues together. All this kind of stuff. But what this game does differently than other games, and rightly or wrongly really, is they've decided to set this one in a bit of an open world on this island that he grew up on. Now, they did experiment with this approach to Sherlock Holmes in the last game, the Devil's Daughter game, whereas that wasn't open world as such. It was a bit more of an open London, so you could actually walk around London a little bit more. Whereas certainly the first game, the Crimes and Punishments game, it was very much more linear in a sense of you travel to locations to interview suspects and things like that. And the first one really got down to the nitty-gritty of being a detective. Now, when this game gets it right, you really do feel like Sherlock Holmes in this game. The detective side of this game, where you're detecting and putting clues together, interviewing suspects, all that kind of stuff. When you do all that in this game, it really does feel like a Sherlock Holmes game, and you do feel like you're being a real detective. What it gets wrong in this game is the painfully dull open world, if I'm honest. There's like sections of this island that you could travel to. I mean, there is fast travel open. It's one of those games that once you discover a location sort of thing, or a fast travel location, you can immediately fast travel there. And trust me, you're going to be doing that because the world just isn't particularly interesting enough. There's very, very little to do here in this world. Other than you can buy furniture, because you essentially, quite early on in this game, you find your childhood manor, and then that then becomes your home for this game. But much of your furniture has been sold off and stuff, so it's fairly bare bones, this manor. So you've got to go around and like buy new furniture for your manor from different places on the map. There's also clothing vendors on the map, which you will need different clothes so you can put different disguises on. So it tries to add some new mechanics in the sense of, you've got a home base that you want to decorate. You're going to need, like I said, new clothes because you need to wear different disguises to get into different places. And something else that this game does, again, it experimented with in the second game, is combat. And for me, this is by far the weakest part of this game, the combat. It is fairly dull, fairly uninteresting. And it's not overly in your face, the combat. There are some missions, main missions, or cases, should I say, that will involve you like going into warehouses and being confronted by like some criminals that you've got to take down using the combat. And like I say, it's pretty dull combat. It's like a targeting system with your weapons so that you can shoot armor off them and stun them so you can arrest them or shoot different parts of the environment to like stun them, like lamps that will stun them, like the sparks off it and things like that. And you've got like a snuff thing that you can blow in the faces again to stun them, so it'll give you enough time to arrest them. But there's no real incentive to do this. You could just shoot them in the head and be done with it, and there's no real repercussions of this other than there's no way getting around saying this, your imaginary friend John will basically scold you for doing that, but there's no repercussions for it at all in regards to. So if the combat is uninteresting to you, just shoot them in the head and get out of there fast. I ended up doing that eventually. So the combat side of it is really sluggish and uninteresting. The open world side of it, even though it looks nice enough, there's just not very little to do in this open world, so you'll find yourself fast travelling around. Occasionally, while you're walking around, you'll find something interesting to look at or a memory from your childhood to unlock. And that's something that you can certainly do while you're going around this open world. But it's few and far between, and it's kind of easy to just stumble onto them because John will tell you that there might be like a memory there for you to unlock. But when this game is absolutely at its strongest is the detective side of it, and it is similar to the other games in that sense. And there are like some main cases where it's much more in depth, and you're interviewing a series of suspects and things like that. You're putting clues together, going into your mind palace, and there are other more basic investigations where you'll essentially be going to crime scenes, piecing together the evidence, and then sitting down and reconstructing it in your mind as to what has actually happened. Go back to the police station and report your findings and like solve the case. So it's an interesting direction that they've gone here. I do think they've taken a couple of missteps with this title. Like I say, the open world doesn't really work, and it doesn't really suit a Sherlock Holmes game either. You just really want to do the detecting here, not necessarily wander about. I like the mechanic that you've got to be kind of dressed in the right clothes to get into the right places, because sometimes you'll pin evidence on the top right hand side, as you'll see there on the screen. And you can question people on the streets, and they'll either help you or they won't. Some of them will help you depending on the costume you wear, as you will see here. I decided to put on this police uniform and ask somebody, and they helped me because I was a police officer. They gave me a clue. But some people won't. You might want to be getting into a poor district. So if you go in there dressed in your nice, posh clothes or clothes that suggest you've got money, you will never get in there. But if you go there dressed as a poorer person or a beggar or something like that, you have more chance of people responding to you. So there are moments where you'll find yourself scratching your head, not wondering how to progress forward in the game, and there are other moments where it's clearly obvious what you need to do. There are some puzzle solving elements here, but you can skip them if you want. When you're doing like chemistry experiments and things like that to progress the case forward. If you don't want to do them, you can skip them. So if you're fans of detective games, what I'm saying is this is definitely worth checking out. If you're a fan of previous Sherlock Holmes games, again, this is definitely worth checking out. I've enjoyed my time with it, but they have taken some missteps here. So from my perspective, I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I'm having a lot of fun with this one. Put a lot of time into it, and I think you will enjoy it too if you're a fan of detective games. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this review useful.